What's up, YouTube? I'm about to try out my new electric skiff. Hope you enjoy it. We had a fire on the main wire here. This video is going to be a compilation of some of the most educational and interesting parts of this journey. So I hope you can benefit a lot from it. The decision to go with an electric outboard is actually currently in doubt, because I just had an incredible performance test of a borrowed 6 horsepower gas outboard, which is of course the standard way that this is done, unless you're going with like Torqeedo and stuff like that. My hope with this channel is to continue documenting my own creative journey. This project has now gone quite far from some of the original passions that I've had and documented, such as bike wrapping and cargo biking. I'm now actually out in San Francisco Bay using a gas outboard and getting there by electric car. I am sticking with my actual state of affairs and not trying to continue only doing one thing on this channel. I suggest that you in your creative life also be real with yourself and follow your actual interests and desires, and not just try to please your previous self or your previous audiences. So far, I have invested in a pretty high-end electric hydrofoiling motor, and I've been getting meaningful advice from Justin from ebikes.ca, otherwise known as Grin Cyclery. Grin is one of the most important electric biking vendors that we have at Rock the Bike. If you like this kind of up-to-date creative process video, then please fiddle with all the things down there that help me along on YouTube. Here's what I came up with. It's a Skeg mount. The top 2 bolts go through the Skeg. The bottom 2 bolts just squeeze this outer carbon thing around the pod motor. It's right down the middle of the boat. And one more time, I'm just gonna give a little walk around of the project. So the packing tape is what's protecting the motor from the epoxy. It's got massive cables coming out, and look at the size of the connectors. Just big hunks of metal that jam into a socket. So those wires are gonna have to go up through a shaft, and these 2 big leathery chunks of carbon, which look like fruit roll-ups kinda, that's what's grabbing the motor, and that's what's making the motor able to pivot at any angle, because it's going to be a parallelogram system. Then there's going to be an arrangement back here. This was an oarlock mount for sculling the boat, I believe it's called. I'm going to transform this into a transom electric motor mount. And you can see there's some damage to the propeller. It's too low on the way to the water relative to the wheels. All right, we're doing motor testing here with the electric motor, hydrofoil motor. Let me give you a little tour. This is the circuit. The pump is currently out of juice, so I'm gonna suck it. The pump is a water cooling system. Keeps the controller cool. This is just a switch. It looks fancy, but it's just a switch. This is the cycle analyst from Grin Cyclery. This is normally an electric bike controller, but anyway, in the lower left, you can see we're doing about 3 kilowatts. And 3 kilowatts is more than my electric bikes use. So Actually, when I'm climbing a steep hill on my biggest electric bike, I'm using almost 3 kilowatts. So this is like equivalent, but we're of course going a lot slower because we're doing all this work of pushing water out of the way. And when I review the footage later, something that I'm going to be paying attention to is, did we go faster when we were using 3 kilowatts versus 2 kilowatts? Because if we go the same speed at 3 kilowatts, then obviously we're wasting energy. But if we go faster at 3 kilowatts, then it's worth it. So right now it's mounted on the Skeg. Yeah. And which is strong. It's strong, but it creates drag when you're not using it. When you are using it, it has to create drag because it has to be submerged. But most people mount it on an arm. Yeah, it seems like, yeah. And I didn't want to do all that work because I wanted to see how good it is first.
This is sweet. This is so fun.
I think it's fun.
Yeah. A little extra weight you gotta carry around. Probably not as much fun to bike.
Yeah. It's also a safety hazard to have so much stored energy on a boat that's made out of thin plastic. Also in the lower corner there, we're used 22 amp hours out of 130. This is my battery pack. That's 130 amp hours. You can see that the water pump is struggling. There's still water coming out, but it's probably going to fail soon, and that's an area where I have to improve. But yeah, this has been a satisfying test. We've now used 23 amp hours out of 130, and we've gone an estimated 4 miles, which means that if I were to use this battery pack, which is kind of a ridiculously large battery pack, then I could potentially have a range of 20 miles. Not that bad.
Drain that battery on the way back to the marina.
Okay, so now we're going to try to hit a higher top speed here. And yeah, this is the controller, or the throttle. It's a wireless throttle. This whole system is purchased from Maytech, and they often sell gear to people doing hydrofoiling boards. That's why it has a wireless throttle. I have to use the electrical tape here to hold my throttle position, but let's see what it feels like when we go twice as fast. Jump it! Now when we go twice as fast, the bow lifts up. Go to the front. Now when we go twice as fast, the bow lifts up. Go to the front. Now we're at 100%. 12 kilowatts.
Whoa, that's not good.
That's not good. We had a fire on the main wire here.
Settle down, girl. Settle down.
We had a fire on the main wire here. And fortunately, the main batteries did not catch fire, but the wire overheated, and that could have been disastrous. And I'm feeling a little embarrassed. I was able to rip the connectors away. Go to the front. Now we're at 100%.
Whoa, that's not good.
That's not good.
Settle down, girl. Settle down.
We had a fire on the main wire here. And now when we go twice as fast, the valve opens up. Go to the front. Now we're at 100%. Basically, the wiring harness job was to take input from 8 different half kilowatt hour packs. So this whole box is 4 kilowatt hours. The other box that's charging in the other room is about a little over 2 kilowatt hours. And the wire gauge that I used to connect these 8 batteries to the other battery box was too small. I chose 12 gauge wire, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is 12 gauge wire, and at 12,000 watts of motor usage, this battery was doing about 8,000 watts at the peak, and 8,000 watts divided by 52 volts is about 150 amps. The wires from each individual pack to the harness never melted, but the wire that was going from these 8 over to the other box did overheat, melt the insulation, and then once the insulation was melted, there was the potential and the actuality of copper touching copper. I started seeing sparks. I got scared. I got stunned. I wasn't acting very quickly. I was also holding a GoPro in my hand, and I was like slightly fascinated, like, oh, this is interesting, you know, and Caleb was saying, that's not good, that's not good. And I'm like, yeah, it's not good. And I still wasn't acting. I was also scared because in similar situations in the past, I've been burned on the inside of my hand when I reached to try to do something. One thing that went well is the connector choice. I've been using these Anderson connectors. And so when I went finally to rip them away, they separate very easily. So I was able to separate all of these connections with only 1 or 2 swipes. That made the situation go away quickly. Thankfully, I didn't get burned on the red hot copper. If I had chosen, for example, the XT60 connector, which is another connector that I use frequently for electric bike projects, the connection force on the XT60 is pretty firm compared to the Anderson connection. We use these types of connectors for pedal power at Rock the Bike frequently. This is a twist lock. See, it's got that like bayonet fitting where you have to click it. Then that could have been really bad because it doesn't pull apart at all. The packs that I'm using are individually protected by a BMS. It has that 14-way connector that reads the 14 different levels of voltage in the pack. And the job of the BMS is to see if any one level is very different from the other 13. The other job of the BMS is to ask, is the pack being asked to do too much right now? So the BMS has a rating. In this case, the rating was 30 amps. The BMS does kick in when the pack starts doing more than 30 amps. I know this because in a previous test of the outboard, I would try throttling past 70% and the BMSs would shut down because I was using too small of a battery. So I know that these BMSs do work, but it's not really the right way to protect yourself. Today, here at the wiring desk of Rock the Bike in Oakland, California, I am going to be switching to 6-gauge wire. Yeah, 6-gauge wire. Lots of copper. Better choice. We could have been badly burned and we could have also sunk. So that situation was really bad and I take responsibility for it. I put my friend and I in danger. I was excited to test as usual. And it's one thing to test an electric bike where you can just get off and walk away, but when you're in a boat, you can't just get off and walk away. You have to think harder, smarter, be more prepared. I'm going to do the steps necessary right now to take safety more seriously while still having fun. With gasoline, there's also some dangers. It's a combustible fuel. With lithium, there's dangers. Lithium doesn't do well with water in the connectors. I want to say thanks to Ariel from Rock the Bike for loaning me this 6 horsepower Mercury outboard engine, which runs on gasoline. I filled it up on the way to the water. Here's the moment when I grab half an oar, put it over the throttle so I can move my weight forward and try to get the boat to really sit on plane. Seeing this footage is really helpful to me. It helps me visualize the moment when I nail it on this electric outboard, and I can do this with lithium and electric. I want to be able to get myself out of danger when I'm in bad spots, which I frequently get to in my sailing because ultimately I'm a beginner. I'm a beginner in a big bad bay next to a big bad ocean. So I need this. I need this safety of being able to get to the side of the bay. I learned this the hard way on my way to Palo Alto when I needed to be rescued, and the video's on the channel, so check it out. The electric outboard is going to be my secret weapon in situations that get gnarly, and the bay does get gnarly. So larger boats, larger keel sailboats have the advantage of withstanding a gale better than a small boat like this, perhaps, but this boat can get to the side quickly if it has a strong enough motor. So I'm now really determined. Seeing this makes me feel really determined to get that evolutionary Darwinian advantage of the size of this 17-foot skiff, to be able to get up on plane, which a keelboat cannot do. A keelboat cannot get to the side as quickly as this boat will be able to when I nail this electric outboard project. And I'm talking this way to psych myself up because it has been a hard project with some punishing moments. I feel very grateful for this experience. It's one thing to imagine it in your mind. It's another thing to actually experience it for minutes on end. I can feel what it's like as the boat skims across the top of the water. You can barely see the splash on the far side. The translucent G10 has a nice telltale for the shape of the water underneath. Clearly we are skipping like a rock on the top. Not that we couldn't go faster, but this is pure planing. And I do want to talk about the speed. I went back to the same location with a GPS app on my phone and redid the test with the same gas outboard. Got a conclusive measurement of only 11 miles per hour, which really felt a lot faster on the first test. This is a 350-pound boat, 17 feet long, 68 inches wide. I weigh close to 200, and I would love to know from experienced skiff people if that's a decent speed for this outboard. I'm really hoping to achieve this speed or higher with the electric system, and I'm really hoping that when that happens, it will be less than 12,000 watts. 12,000 watts seems like quite a lot, having to up the size of the wiring to 6 gauge to go 11 miles an hour seems like a big step. All right, real quick about the weights involved. The electric system is actually heavier than the gas motor. That was a little bit of a shock to me, and I'm gonna just show you the breakdown here. For the motor itself on the electric, this Maytech, coming in at 12.45 pounds, including my mount. I will see how much the mount is adding. The mount is exactly 1 pound, and that means that the motor itself is nearly 11.5 pounds for this Maytech MTI 120116/WP. One thing that I've considered is that the propeller is not that much bigger than the can of the motor, so I'm trying to extend the diameter there. I've also found that rigidly mounting the motor to the skeg of my first mate is not optimal. I think turning your outboard motor is way better for steering, so the next step is to actually turn this into an outboard, put this on a shaft, and then be able to steer with it. This entire pile is like the necessary parts of the electric system. This is the controller, this is like a switch and a shunt that feeds the consumption of this through my Cycle Analyst Heavy Duty Edition. This is the water pump, handheld throttle. All of that comes in at 10 pounds. So altogether, we cannot move all together yet without acknowledging, as I wait for traffic to go by on beautiful San Pablo Avenue here in Oakland, California. All right, so last but not least, the lithium-ion battery coming in at 65.6 pounds, meaning that this entire electric system is coming in at 88 pounds. Lithium battery is the heaviest component of the system, and of course, as you use up the energy, there's no evaporation into the atmosphere, which is why electric is desirable, because I don't want to pollute if I don't have to. When you use up gas, however, this evaporation that's causing global warming is actually kind of a good thing for you in the moment, because your boat gets lighter. So you're burning up the fuel and then it goes into the atmosphere. With the lithium, you carry the full weight of the battery even when it's completely empty and of no use to you. So that's a major downside of lithium. I've been experimenting with different, size for different range. This upper one is 25 pounds, and that could be probably equivalent to like 40 amp hours. At lower speeds, that would actually go quite a long way. Okay, and now here you have, for comparison's sake, the Mercury 6 horsepower outboard, which offers, numerous features including steering, and my own rigid mount electric motor system with the Maytech, featuring the Maytech motor. Interestingly, the propellers are about the same size on both. The propeller on the gas has a steeper pitch, measuring in at 7.8, whereas the Maytech came with a 7.5. So really almost the same size, but a steeper pitch on the gas motor. And now let's do the measurements. The gas motor versus the electric motor, this one is 60.5 pounds. So the majority of the weight of the gas system as a system is in this unit, whereas in my electric system, the motor is actually one of the lighter components of the system overall. And now let's round out the system with the part that actually causes climate change, the fossil fuels, which is coming in at, let me just get a quick weigh down on it actually. 17.6 pounds. So this is 17.6 pounds. That's about 2 gallons plus the weight of the jug. So the complete system weight is under 80 pounds for the 6 horsepower gas motor that was able to get me up on plane. Not only that, but this amount of gasoline could be equivalent to a 50 to 80 mile range. And I believe achieving a 50 mile range with my 6 kilowatt hour pack could have actually been, I don't think that would be achievable at high speeds. I think that that might be achievable at low speeds. So basically, the gas motor is winning the range weight class of things. So right away, what I've learned is that an electric system is probably going to be more expensive and heavier than a gas system. So you have to really want it. Having said that, I'm at the beginning of my testing, and I do want to try to get more specific about things, and I'm going to try to also experiment with better propellers on the electric.
I was trying to move forward and see if I could put my weight right on the spot where the wave was coming from.
Wanted to share just a couple other of the moments from the testing. So after extending the pink coiled kill switch on the Mercury outboard, I went for another test. Put the throttle to full, slip the oar over the throttle. It's kind of a loose fit. And then I start moving forward. You can see my extension there on the coiled up kill switch. Now I'm moving my weight forward, and I'm further and further from the outboard, but I'm trying to see if I can increase the speed here. Maybe I did increase the speed, but if I did, it was probably only to about 12 miles an hour. Still feels faster than that when you're actually doing it, and this much power is kind of intimidating to control. You got to be really on it. So I started to want to move backwards. I started to feel like maybe the oar wasn't connected very well anymore, and I wanted to get back to it. Now I've got to move my weight over the thwart. I'm starting to get worried that the boat's going to enter a weird spin. So I dive for the outboard, lose the oar in the process, and fortunately it's still floating. It's a hollow carbon oar. It's not filled with foam yet. I would like to fill it with some foam so it keeps floating no matter what, but it's barely still floating. I'm lucky. Maybe there's some air trapped in it. So I go in for the grab. Just another shenanigan from Fossil Fool testing his own stuff in San Francisco Bay. So yeah, there needs to be some type of a tiller extender. This is going to be a factor with my electric as well as with the gas, because I think I'm going to want to sit sort of in the middle when I'm doing my motoring for planing purposes. I also wanted to say that, after the battery fire, it kind of reveals some of the technical limitations or vulnerabilities of an electric system. Lots of current going through wires. I don't want to imply that the gas motor was 100% effective. I did have some weird moments where it wasn't starting, and I kind of gave up. Tried calling Ariel. He tried to give me some tips, and then he concluded that the thing was flooded.
No starting. Back to neutral.
So, and I've heard from others, including Justin, that gas motors are not like 100% reliable. So I really do want it to be reliable when I need it. That's the thing. Like, in the conditions where I'm going to need it to work, I'm going to want it to start and work every time, because that's the whole point of having it.
Trusty oars.
Anyway,
Like a good row.
we do carry a backup on the first mod, and we don't go hull speed, we don't plane, but we can get around under oars. So yeah, thanks for checking out this vid, kind of a long one. I hope it helps people who are considering similar projects. I am planning to post a part 2 and you will be the first to know about it if you subscribe and interact with this video, such as liking, commenting, saving, sharing. So thanks for helping me along on YouTube, and till next time.
Maybe it once was fishing gear, but it's not right now.